This is Fowl Players Radio, your podcast for arts, entertainment, and pop culture. Welcome. My name is Michael Spedden, your host. Every episode features fun, fascinating stories about people in the performing arts, actors, authors, dancers, writers, musicians, athletes, you name it. Folks who are center stage, backstage, on camera, or behind the scenes. Sit back and listen. Let's have some fun. Fowl Players Radio is a proud production of the Fowl Players Group and the official podcast of the Fowl Players of Perryville.
Hi, this is Bud Becker, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
This is A.D. Adams, and you are tuned in to Fowl Players Radio with your host, Michael Spedden.
Yeah, hi, this is David Simmons from DC Star, and I am just encouraging all of you to tune in to Michael Spedden's show on Fowl Players Radio and love the rock and roll of the past and the art of the future.
Hi, this is Kim of Kim's Crypt, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hey, Mary Jo Peel here, and you are listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hey folks, welcome back to Fowl Players Radio, Season 10, Episode 6. Today we visited with director Andrea Kilcup and co-executive director Steve Nerangis about their latest creation, Hammerjacks-The Rockumentary. You had to be there, from Varla Dogwood Films. I recently viewed this movie and it was absolutely wonderful. The filmmakers did an absolutely wonderful job of recreating the Hammerjacks experience, the biggest nightclub on the East Coast in the 80s and 90s. It was an escape to a time in my life that I will always remember fondly, and it was wonderful to relive these memories watching this film. Featured in the film are past Fowl Players Radio guests Bud Becker, Nestor Aparicio, Mike Brilhart, Pete Colussi, and David Simmons of DC Star. It's a great film, folks. I recommend that you watch it. There are links in the show notes for Hammerjacks-The Rockumentary. They're listed in the show notes. You can both purchase to stream and purchase an actual DVD copy. So make sure you do that. Please remember to subscribe to Fowl Players Radio. Hit the like button. Our YouTube channel is at Fowl Players Radio. You can find us at all of these different platforms. You can also find us directly on our website at fowlplayersradio.com. Please hit the subscribe buttons, hit the like buttons, give us good reviews, and pass it on to your friends. We'd love to have you here to join the party. Remember, too, the Fowl Players of Perryville will be appearing on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad on May 6th. The show is going to be The Answer is Murder. Tickets are available at WMSR.com. We'll also be appearing at Fifth Company Brewing on May 12th. The show is Foul Play, and tickets are available at fifthcompanybrewing.com. For more dates, check our website at www.fowlplayersofperryville.com. We'll be right back with Steve Nerangis and Andrea Kilcup right after these words. Hey folks, the Chorus of the Chesapeake is having their second annual bull and shrimp roast. To benefit the chorus, it's going to be on Sunday, May 21st, 2023, from 1 to 5 p.m. at Superior Catering Hall, 1010 South Oldham Street in Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Tickets are $50 each. There will be a cash bar available. No BYOB or coolers will be allowed in. For more information and tickets, contact Bob Mattis at 410-435-1947. We hope to see you there. And folks, we're back for another episode of Fowl Players Radio. Hammerjacks-The Rockumentary is finally out now. We've been anticipating this for a long time, something we've all been looking forward to. The director, Andrea Kilcup, and the co-executive producer, Steve Nerangis, are with us tonight to talk about this wonderful film. And the first thing I want to say to both of you is thank you. Thank you for a job well done. This was just a wonderful documentary. It says you had to be there. I was. I never had the fortune of playing there. I played everywhere else but there in those days. But I was there quite a bit. I remember a lot of the people. I remember a lot of the things that went on there. Been to a million concerts there. And I think you just did a beautiful job of capturing that experience. And I just, kudos to both of you. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed watching it.
That's great. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. So this looks like it's been in in progress for quite a while. When did you really start production? When did the idea come in? I guess give me a little background information. The idea to do this through getting started.
Yeah, I don't know really what year were we working on the Kicks documentary.
2014.
Yeah, something like that.
We
That's when
started that. So 2016 we wrapped that up. So we about 2014 we started.
yeah, we
Wow.
were working through the Kicks documentary, and you know, obviously Hammerjacks came up a lot while we were, you
Mhm.
know, interviewing and such, and we decided that that was a really good topic to explore. So we started tacking on Hammerjacks interviews to the ones for the Kicks Can't Stop the Show.
Mhm.
And it just kind of snowballed, and then, you know, years long process, like you said.
Wow. I mean, it had to have been a lot of fun to put together, though. I mean, just hearing all these stories and people sharing all their memories of being down there. I mean, having again speaking from somebody who was playing in a band in this area at that time, uh, and I've had a lot of guests on my show from that era. The one thing that we all agree to is it was a magical time to be in music, and um, you brought it back. I think. I mean, I felt like I was, actually transported watching this movie
That's
back to
cool.
those
It was
days.
it was a lot of fun. Yeah, like you said, it was a lot of fun to make too, because for us, these were a lot of musicians and bands that we listened to when we were younger too. So
Mhm.
it was really cool to catch up with a lot of the people like DC Star, who I used to hear their name all the time on the radio, and had never got to see them play and had never met those guys. But
Mhm.
it's cool after all these years to meet them, and it's fun for all of us. They're reliving it the same time we are when we're
Mhm.
going through these interviews. So it was really cool. A lot of people, I grew up as a huge Kicks fan, so we had of course met those guys working on the Kicks documentary, but had never met
Mhm.
the Child's Play guys and the Wrathchild guys and all that stuff. So it was really wild to meet those people for the first time, all in quick succession. And yeah, it was a thrill, and I love going to the club too. And like you
Mhm.
talked about earlier before we started recording, old 930 club I used to go to all the time in the Bayou, and so really the region was very special at that
Mhm.
time. Not just Hammerjacks. The Hammerjacks seemed to be the big room. That was the one that everybody would talk about nationally. It seemed like,
Mhm.
the old 930 was 300 capacity, and the Bayou was sort of a similar setup, but not quite as big or grand, I don't think, as Hammerjacks, quite as wild either. But so yeah, it's cool that hopefully that was captured a little bit too, about just how special the DC Baltimore area was
Mhm.
in total at that time.
Right. You were just, kind of talking about club capacities there. I really think I'm a firm believer at Hammerjacks that that number that the fire marshal put up by the door was really more taken as a suggestion than it really. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. We heard a lot of stories too that the fire marshal would show up, because everybody's like, well, the capacity, I don't know, it was around 1,700, 1,900, I don't
Oh,
know.
they.
But then it would be the kind of thing where the fire marshal would show up and say, we're shutting it down, everybody's got to go. And the people that really knew would sort of stick around. And all the
Mhm.
people that didn't know as well, like, oh, I guess we got to go. And then once it got to a certain level, they're like, okay, go ahead. And
Mhm.
so they weren't really shutting it down. It's just like, we need about 100 people out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what the capacity officially was.
Right.
Not sure anybody remembers.
Yeah, it was whatever that number was, it was like kind of okay, yeah, 1,700 people. Okay, yeah. I can remember I saw Kiss down there, like non-makeup era Kiss. I mean, you couldn't even move. I mean, I think there were some people that were just jammed in there so much their feet weren't even touching the ground. They were just kind of wedged in there. Like, I mean, it was crazy. And the other that was the same thing too with trying to see Kicks down there or something. The place was just absolutely packed, and there was just no wiggle room at all. I mean, if you were to get a beer, forget it, you were gone. You weren't going to get that spot back on the floor. Um, you know, some of these, you went, it looks like you really went near and far too. A lot of the folks that were around, kind of still in the area, but, I think you got, it was Dockin and a number of other ones, I mean, and, they were willing to come forward and share their stories. I think, well, a lot of these, Jeff LaBar, he had quite a bit of footage with him. They're from Philly, I think, but I'm not sure where he was living, but were a lot of these people easy to track down? I mean, how did you get the feelers on bringing them in?
I think Andrea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I'm saying, Andrea, what do you want to?
like, I feel like for the most part, people were really excited to be part of it, because even, the bigger guys like Jeff LaBar and some of the bigger bands, people from bigger bands, they may not have even played there, but they were, they would hang out there and they knew that it was like legendary, so they were excited to talk about it. And I think like even some of the people would send us footage, like especially people from way too far out. They would, even go as far to have somebody record it and then email it to us. So I thought that was really cool. It was, it was easy and hard.
You're right. I could see what you mean by that.
Well, there was, there were some people that wanted to be involved. We just couldn't work out the filming. Now, there was a little bit of that, but we were fortunate in that, especially with LA, because so many of the bands that we talked to and were from that time frame were from LA, and there's a filmmaker we know there named Will Stockwell who was always available to go out and grab some of those people, like Nuno from Extreme, and as you mentioned, Jeff Pilson from Dockin and Foreigner. And he did on the Kicks movie, he filmed Jamie St. James from Black and Blue for us. So we were very fortunate to have somebody that was affordable and into it in LA to do some of that filming. And then otherwise, we did some traveling. I mean, Andrew and I, we went with Dale Jackson, who worked on the film as well. We all went to Philly and got the Johnny D, Brittany Fox footage. And
Tommy
that was also, who else was down in Philly that we got, Andrew?
It was Tommy Conwell.
Tommy Conwell.
Philly,
yeah.
Think,
so we did that trip, and then we did we went to Nashville, and that's where we got Jeff LaBar. So picked up some interviews there. And again, that was we were there primarily for the Kicks movie at that time. And Jeff LaBar did a whole interview for the Kicks film. And so again, as Andrea said, once it became clear that Hammerjacks was going to be something we were going to do in the future, we just started asking everybody about Hammerjacks. And so it's not the kind of we were fortunate that way, because it's not the kind of thing that you would drive all the way to Nashville to get 30 seconds of Jeff LaBar saying something. But it's like, man, it was really cool that we were already filming and able to take some of that stuff and hold on to it for this project.
Yep. I think it's important to our history around here that you got this out for a lot of people to see. You had mentioned the Baltimore DC corridor and I think and it was mentioned in the film too, that it was largely overlooked, but there was a lot of great stuff going on in that era down there. We had talked about the 930 Club, and I can tell you, I've told a lot of my own stories from performing in DC, and the 930 Club, 15-minute Club. There was a couple of other ones. Club 118, I think, from out in Gaithersburg. You remember that place?
I don't know that place now.
Yeah. There was so many of them that I'm just the Paragon in College Park was
Paragon. I was at the Paragon all the time in that place, because you could get in with an ID pretty easily.
Right.
So I was a regular at the old Paragon when I was about 19.
Yeah, those were the stairs from hell. And
my God, you are not kidding. Well, Shiley Acres is another one too, man, that people all from that time frame all remember Shiley Acres. And that's how I knew a lot of those names, hearing stuff about DC Star and Face Dancer and Child's Play. Everybody, Kicks always playing out in Shiley Acres. So that was a reason I knew a lot of these bands.
Right. But this is very important, I think, to our history in this area, that you got this out there for a lot of people to see. I think word's going to spread about this. You're going to get a lot of interested people, buying this to watch. we have our own history here, which I get very overlooked. I think this will shed a lot of light on it, maybe generate a lot of interest in this history. Another area that I'm very interested in the history of that I just kind of explore and I've researched on my own is the Catskills. If you remember, the Catskill Mountains, all those resorts and everything up there, all the comedians and actors that came up through that. That's really got its own history too, and that's another one that I'm really interested in. But
you should make a film about it, man.
Hey, why not? I had a guest on who was actually does a TV show about it.
Wow.
It was on the channel. It's not on my cable up here, but it was called Jewish Life Television, and it was a half-hour show. I think he did like 8 or 10 of them, called Remembering the Catskills. And I saw he sent me a couple of episodes, like so I could watch them. But there's so much history up there too. That's where Woodstock was too. But the Hammerjacks, the Network, the Seagull Inn, the what was the other the outdoor venue? Of course, Merriweather, Painter's Mill.
Oh yeah.
So much lore from this area here. And
I don't think a lot of us realized exactly how special it was while it was happening, right? I mean, you have to get separated from it a little bit to understand. When I was in high school, Old 930 Club that was like the center of the universe for punk rock, and I didn't really, I just thought every major city had that going on, but with Bad Brains and Minor Threat and all those bands, it's just like, it was a really, Scream with Dave Grohl playing at the 930 Club all the time, So I think a lot of times you don't realize how unique that was until it's years later. It's like, oh man, we were really around for something cool, And Hammerjacks has that kind of feel to it. I think where people loved it, people had a great time at the time, but I don't know that when you're in it, you don't realize that it's only going to be that kind of experience is only going to be around for a little while.
Right, right. Well, and that's another thing that you said too. Another thing that I agree with that you said here, which is why this I think is just so wonderful that you did this, is because you can sit there and try to explain to younger people how wonderful things were back in the day. They're like, yeah, okay, grandpa, whatever. But now they can see it. Now they can see it firsthand. And again, just such a wonderful, wonderful job here.
That's one thing that's one of the things that's been really cool when we've done screenings. People come up to Andrew and I and be like, the younger people, that's the thing that's always cool for me, because of course all of us that were there are going to get something out of it. It's like, I remember when this happened and this happened and what. But for younger people to come up, kids that are in their, I say kids, in their 20s and so forth, that are like, oh man, I missed out. That looked like the place to be. So that's been a huge compliment, I think, when we've shown this to other people, is that it really does. You do get a feeling that it is a good snapshot of what went on when you hear people that couldn't be there talk about how they wish they could be there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I wasn't there. But like hearing about it, I was like, oh, we got to make a movie about this.
Yeah.
We don't have anything like that. I mean, live music is kind of dead. We were just talking when we were on the other call that we thought we were waiting for. We're just talking about how much concert tickets cost now, and like it's just, things are so inaccessible, it seems like, compared to how it used to be.
Yeah, the concerts were always very low priced down at Hammerjacks. There was nothing unreasonable at all. It was always reasonable to be able to go down there, and again, being a musician, you were broke anyway, but you could get tickets to what you wanted to see down there, and you could afford a couple of drinks. Nothing off the top rail or anything. But
well, man, yeah, you could go all the time. You could go out to Hammerjacks 3 times a week and not run out of money, right? It's I mean, during that time, it's a concert that was referred to in the film, but I went to that film at the Baltimore Convention Center. What was it? What was it called? Baltimore, whatever, where Motley Crue played on Theater of Pain with Loudness opening.
Loudness, yeah, I remember. I was there.
Everybody ended up at the club afterwards, and I was too young to be at the club. I was like 14 when I saw that show, 14. But how much did we pay to get in that show? $15, $20, you know what I mean? to go see Motley Crue. What do you pay to see Motley Crue now?
Oh
You know?
boy, yeah, a kidney or two, I think.
You know what I mean? And it's that was something where you really could go support live music all the time if you wanted to at that time, and not only Hammerjacks, but like in the arenas, you know, and that was what in DC where Fugazi would only charge, they would refuse to play for over $5 a ticket. You remember that?
Mhm.
So those days are gone,
Right.
as far as I can tell. I mean, even going to something like the 930 Club, when I dropped $50 to walk in the door now, you know?
Right. I think that the one thing they say, and I know you did a little blurb, you know, a section at the end about Kevin Butler and his new venture with the Hammerjacks logo. You know, I've heard a lot of things about that, and I'm not going to get into that because I didn't witness these things. And everything that I've heard is hearsay. I've heard pro and con about everybody involved with it here. And I know that there may be some feelings about him using the name. So there are people that feel that maybe he didn't, maybe it was a little sneaky how he got. I really don't know. I'm just hearing things. But the one thing is that with this is that, can you go home? Can you ever really go home? I still go to shows from time to time, because there are a lot of them out there that have sort of that environment. It's not quite the same, but I see a lot of the people, like at Ram's Head downtown and Soundstage and the Anthem in DC. But the thing is that, the bands I remember, I think them going on like at 11:30 was an early show at Hammerjacks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, nowadays, hell, especially us 50 and over, to hell with that. We're in bed by 11 o'clock. That show better start at like 7. And,
Yeah.
And the thing is, too, I noticed like the Queen in Wilmington. I saw Cheap Trick and like Glenn Hughes and a couple of bands from our era there. They started going towards seated shows because, all the people standing around. I mean, you go to a concert and stand around for 3 or 4 hours, you got 2 or 3 days of recovery after that. Your ankles are the size of telephone poles walking out of there, and you're on the couch.
That's true.
With
I think with Hammerjacks in the current form, the outdoor venue that they built is really gorgeous, and you've seen some pictures in the film from a show there with Clutch, and I think that's the important thing about. And this is something that Kevin, from our conversations with him, has known the entire time, which is like you can't make the exact same club that they had. It wouldn't work. And the bands, if you had the bands come in that used to play there, that wouldn't work either. I mean, there's a limited audience left that's interested in, not that people aren't interested in seeing it, but who's going to go out on a Wednesday night at 10 o'clock to see, what? It's not, we all see it at M3 and it's like, okay, we got to take a rest for a year, right? That's the way we work these days. But it's with the shows that they had booked in this last season with Clutch and with they had some stuff for younger audiences, and I think that's worked out well. And I think it's almost like if you remake a classic movie, right? It's not going to be the same thing, but maybe some people that would have not been exposed to the original thing, or maybe wouldn't even like it because it would seem dated at this point, right? Maybe that's something for that audience. So it's like, oh, I swear by the original Evil Dead, but when the remake came out, there was this whole generation of kids that hadn't seen the original Evil Dead. They're like, this thing's awesome, which it was. But so I think that's sort of the deal with Hammerjacks. It's like the brand is recognized worldwide, and everybody knows that you can't do Hammerjacks like Hammerjacks was. You're not having bikini contests and wet t-shirt and all that. That stuff's not happening ever again. People aren't going to be doing cocaine off of each other in the bathrooms. It's just not what it is anymore, right? Which is okay. I think it's okay to say there's a history that exists, and what they're trying to do with the brand now is trying to sort of pay pay homage to what the venue was, while at the same time doing something that's more forward thinking for a current concert going audience. So hopefully it works out, man. We need good quality venues. And I the one show that I saw there was outstanding, man. The sound was great. It looked cool. The looking around the space was really awesome. Like, you had the train tracks right there, which sort of made you feel like, you're around the old club with the trains going by and all that stuff,
Yep.
But I don't think those things have to be separate from each other. I think all of us that love the old club can still think about how much we love the old club, while the kids who are going to support music nowadays anyway can go see the shows they want to see.
Sure. I wanted to ask too. I saw somebody brought up the old matchbooks.
Yeah,
I remember those very well. You had, I met so and so at Hammerjacks, and
you can't do that anymore either. That's not going to fly these days,
I know. Well, another thing that I have too, and I have, these are actual from the original club.
Yeah,
I got about
one here too. Yeah,
I got about 12 or 15 of these out in my garage. I have had them packed away for years. And one of the bartenders, she had her old tip jar from back in those days. And what people used to do a lot of times to make their own bumper stickers for their car, they'd take these letters and cut them out and use electrical tape or something for the background, and actually make their own name out of Hammerjacks letters. And I took and actually made my own band name. I cut and pasted some of these letters and everything, and actually made my own band name and put it on the back of my car.
I love it
like that. But I still have about 12 or 15 of these out in the, just never used. Gave a couple away as gifts. I've got one up on the wall out in my studio. And but I was really, that girl still had her tip jar where she cut her name out and actually put her name on that
Sandy,
tip
right?
jar.
Sandy's tip jar. Yeah, she the person dressed as Halloween in the movie, right?
Yep. Like I think it was a Sandy or a Stacy came to mind or something. But I remember her holding up, because she was talking at the time people went crazy in there. She grabbed her tip jar and she showed it. Still having it from then. That is that was something. But I can remember the some of the shows down there getting really wild. The Ramones being down there, people jumping not only off the stage, but I saw a couple of people actually go off the upper deck.
Wow.
Down there. I can remember one show where somebody jumped off the stage, landed on this girl, and it looked like her neck went in a position it just wasn't supposed to go into, and they kind of had to stop and get her out of there. But overall, I mean, those are just a couple things, but overall, I mean, it's just some of the great shows down there, and the people you would see hanging out down there too. They would come over from the arena and hang out and party, just like you said. And or if they were playing there the next night, they would come and visit the club the night before and just walk around and have some fun. I saw Cheap Trick hanging out a couple of times, and Iron Maiden there, and Priest, and it was just just such a awesome environment. It was I don't think anything anywhere else had anything on this. It's just as good, if not better, than anything else that was around in those days. And again, you really captured it. How much footage did you actually get while doing this? I mean, I can imagine you guys probably have to have at least 8, 10, 12 hours of footage easily that you had to shave down for this. Is there any of it that did you archive it? Would you ever release like an outtakes or an extended video or interviews for collectors or anything one of these days? Or is that under lock and key?
I don't think it's under lock and key. We've got some bonus footage on the DVD, and it's available for streaming too, I think, Steve, isn't it? You can
all the outtakes that we put together an outtake reel of about a half hour, and it's available both on the hard copy and the streaming.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would say at least 12 hours of footage, probably way more than that.
Oh, easily.
At least there's some interviews that just didn't even even make it in for sure. And then there's, I mean, some of those things, man. I mean, the Jeff Pilson interview, we got an hour and 10 minutes of him talking. You know, that's just one person who's in the film for what, 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Jeff LaBar's interview is really long. I mean, there's tons of stuff. Not all of it fits with the film though, right? So you're just talking with people like we're doing right now, right? You have conversations with people and some of the stuff sticks and some doesn't. So there's certainly tons of it. How much would be something that everybody would want to see? I don't know, in terms of just Hammerjacks. I mean, that's the other part, right? Is that if you're talking to somebody for the Kicks movie and you're talking for 45 minutes and they mention Hammerjacks for 30 seconds, that's the 30 seconds that exists for Hammerjacks, right? But it's I don't know, man. I think what you find too with the footage, and what do you think, Andrea, is that Andrea did a really awesome job setting up an outline ahead of time and had her questions sort of to go in the direction of where the film was going to go. But it really, Andrea can talk about this too, but I think the thing was when we talked to Louis, sort of put everything in focus. But the thing is, in a project like this, you have a lot of people saying really similar things. So you're tasked with like, who's saying things, who's got the most interesting answer to that question? Because everybody's sort of answering similar questions, right? And then it's like, are we using this person too much? Is it we relying too much on John Allen, which we weren't, by the way, but John Allen's a fantastic interview. I mean, you use every single thing he says you can use. So it's like, but it's not 90 minutes of John Allen. So you take things and put other people's answers in here and there to make sure people are represented. But so I think as far as having stuff that to have a cut that would be longer and so forth, I think you'd get repetitive. You just hear a lot of people saying similar things like, oh, you remember, and some of it you can see, it's like, I was at the Guns N' Roses show. I was at the Guns N' Roses show. I was at the Guns N' Roses show. So it's like you don't necessarily need to hear all of it, but that's the fun of editing, right? Just figuring out how to use things the way that's going to be the most engaging.
What were some of your favorite stories that you heard from down there? That you heard from the people that you interviewed, in other words?
My favorites were really mostly from the original crew, the original bartenders. And of course, the Louis and Jackie interview day, like Steve said, that was really like that happened pretty late in our filming for the film. But like I just feel like as soon as we sat down with them, that totally like just shaped everything, and like it changed it. We were like, oh, this is going to turn into something, because before, like Steve said, we got so and so talking about what shows did you see? What shows did you see? So that interview day was really good. It really brought a lot of heart to the film, and that's what I was most interested in too. Of course, I wasn't there, like I said, but you see all of these people talk about it, like it is so special to them, So it was that was what was important to me, and I think so. The original crew and bartenders, and everybody was so nice.
Yeah,
everybody was just so friendly, and kind of made me feel a little bit like I was part of the family, especially Anne Marie, who's not able to be here tonight, but another executive, co-producer. I mean, just the staff. I think for me, there were a lot of stories that we just didn't have time to fit in from Jill DeVille, because you could hear Jill DeVille talk, how she got her name, for one thing, is a great story. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but
no.
But Jill DeVille, that's not her actual name, but Cece DeVille from Poison was in the club in the backstage one time and hanging out with her, and he's like, if we got married, because her name's Jill, it's like, if we got married, your name would be Jill DeVille. And so she's like, yeah, I like that. So next thing you know, she's got a Jill DeVille tattoo, and she's getting mail as Jill DeVille now, right? So it's stuck. But it's she had amazing stories, man. But it's like, sometimes those get sacrificed by they're just a sidebar. It doesn't really add to the main story. But she had a story about, and I don't even know if she remembers what band, but there was a band that she was partying with after a show at Hammerjacks, and like in their van, and woke up in Pittsburgh. Like, you know, she's partying in Baltimore and wakes up in the morning in Pittsburgh. Like, how the hell? What's going on? And they're like, oh yeah, you were asleep and you're with us now. And she had a shift at Hammerjacks that night, so she had to get from Pittsburgh back to Hammerjacks to go into work. So that kind of stuff. You know, she was fantastic, man. She had so many stories, but again, it's like, you know, you can't fit them all in because it didn't really pertain to anything else that was being talked about. But man, she had some good stuff for sure.
Yeah, I remember her. I don't know her personally, but you know, of course I saw her around. I recognized her immediately. You know, when you had her in the video and everything. But you know, Andrew, you know, the one thing that you brought up too, you mentioned family. It was like a family, and it really was down there, because you know, one of the things, and you know, we kind of forget this, you know, we probably don't realize this now, but back in those days, you know, if you were a metalhead, you had long hair, you were an outcast. You know, you couldn't, you know, people were getting fired from jobs if you had long hair. Nowadays, people walk around work with purple hair and nose rings, and it's no big deal. Back in those days, you know, if you were into heavy metal, you were an outcast. You know, it was, and the thing is, you know, that was definitely more of like a blue collar kind of thing. You know, when you went out to, like, you know, the higher dollar areas and everything, the prepper areas, you were really looked at as an outcast. You know, Hammerjacks and these clubs like this was the place where you could go and really be accepted and listen to your music. And I'm sure there were you know, a lot of other areas, you know, a lot of other things like that too for other people. But you really were part of a family and part of a culture down there. That was really interesting, you know, kind of how you brought that up. You really got me thinking about that. That is really part of the, you know, experience of being down there. It was almost like everybody knew each other. There were brawls and fights and stuff like that, but people would be just people getting drunk and stupid down there. But I really don't think there was any animosity. It was really kind of a community, I think.
Well,
hanging
and I
out.
think
You
both
remember that, you know?
both Brad and Shannon from Ratchild brought that up specifically and said, this is a place. I remember Shannon in the movie, so that's a place all the freaks could go, right? So it's like, it didn't matter. And Brad in the movie says, hey, you could, you know, you could be a punk and into the Ramones, or you could be glam and be into Skid Row, right? But everybody was friends there, and it was all about seeing music, and you could go there and be accepted, and everybody got along. And it's, you know, and one of the bartenders talked about it too. It's like everybody's a rock star when they're there, right? That was the part of the deal, is like you definitely got the feel talking to everybody that they felt like a family at Hammerjacks, but it sort of extended to the people that were coming there as customers, which is a really pretty unique experience, I think.
And it was also mentioned in the movie too that was the era when the LA thing was starting to fade out and the Seattle thing was starting to come in, and the bands really changed down there too. You know, it went from being, it seems like, and this is maybe just the way I remember it, but it seemed like, you know, they had regular, it may have been, it was Hammered, you know, they would have, like, you know, Mystic Force or Child's Play regularly, and then that kind of changed over to Why Not and The Loft after a while, when the 90s really started to come in. And but you know, it was still all good down there because people liked them as well. You could go down there and see you know, Anthrax one night, and you would have the Psychedelic Furs another night.
For sure.
A lot of times.
Sure. And you know, that's one of the things that was such a great time about growing up during that time too, is that there's so many different genres of music that were really successful at the same time, you know. And I was listening to a lot of it, man. I love Judas Priest, and I love the Smiths, you know. So it was cool that you could do those things at the same time, and those bands were really thriving. It was a really cool time for original music, where so many different types of bands were successful at that time. And it certainly wasn't unique to Hammerjacks by any stretch that music was changing, and it was changing at every club that you go to, right? But it was, you know, and that wasn't what killed Hammerjacks. I mean, it's just any of us that were there in the 90s, it was still packed, and it was still, I mean, different bands were different. Nine Inch Nails was playing. I mean, I saw I saw a show there with Public Image Limited and Blind Melon, you know, so it's like, but it was packed, right? So I don't think that's what did the club in. Clearly, it was that the Ravens needed the parking space, right? So it's
Yeah.
that's what happened, man. So it's it certainly changed for people that were into hard rock and metal of the time, which of course changed completely by the time Seattle happened anyway. I mean, just what you know, when I started listening to stuff like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Dio, I mean, nobody was ready for Poison yet, right? That it was like a trajectory before they were something that was going to be popular. So so, you know, I don't know that there's, as far as Hammerjacks went, there was certainly that feeling like, oh, it was, and that's what we concentrated on. We concentrated on a lot of that kind of rock that made the club famous. But certainly, you know, people that would think that Hammerjacks was gone because of that were just sort of like, they might have stopped listening to music at that time anyway. You know what I mean? It's just sort of, it was a natural progression of where music was headed.
Yeah.
And Hammerjacks was just following along with it because that's what you do when you're a live music venue. I mean, you bring in bands that are going to sell tickets, right? I mean, there's no big secret about that, man. And if it's DJs that are selling tickets, that's what you're doing. So that didn't kill the club, but it certainly changed. It changed with the times, that's for sure.
What was it like for
930 Club's still here, man? You know?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's Fugazi, minor threaded around, man. 930 Club's still rolling. So
you know, one thing I remember about 930, because I played at the older one. We played there once. That club owner was somebody who really knew how to treat a band. We were paid well that night, and we had, you know, we get there, we had a dressing room that didn't stink. We went
the downstairs dressing rooms.
Yeah. And they had a tub of water and juice and some beers. They had a bunch of the Fosters. Remember the big Foster oil can beers?
Of course.
They're big cans. I think they were like 24-ounce cans or something. And they had a whole bunch of them on ice for us. And we're like, wow, look at all, it was like, you know, $200 for a set of originals. We're just like, wow, you know, our eyes just rolled around like a slot machine and dollar signs popped up when we saw that. But that they were really, really super nice down there. And I wish I could have had the experience to play there more. What I wanted to ask you too was, I mean, this was a journey, you know, gathering all this, talking to all these people. You know, Andrea, you know, since you didn't experience it the first time around, you're really coming into it. What was it like when all of a sudden now it's happening, it's go time, it's premiere night? What was that experience like for you? I mean, I guess you probably had a lot running through your head, you know. What were your thoughts, and what did you all, both of you really, you know, what were your thoughts on the premiere night? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were you, you know?
Yeah, totally nervous for sure. I mean, like I said, it was, it felt like a big undertaking, especially once we had talked to so many people who clearly had so many intense memories attached to it.
Right.
And we really wanted it to be like, to do it justice, you know, not have it flop. And, you know, so I don't know if I can't speak for Steve or Anne-Marie, but the whole time I was, you know, milling about the theater, trying to, you know, I couldn't sit still in one place, just kind of checking the reaction just to gauge that. Yeah, I was definitely nervous, but it got, you know, people enjoyed it. And that's what really matters at the end of it.
Yeah, there were two big theatrical screenings. The first was the official premiere, which we did in Virginia. And that was the part that was nerve-wracking about that one for me, was that Louis was there. You know, Kevin Butler was there too, and we certainly wanted to have it be something that, to go back, when we reached out during the Kicks filming to the Hammerjacks Facebook page, it was Kevin Butler that wrote to us and said, hey, you know, when you're, let me help you out with some interviews from people that worked at Hammerjacks, but then maybe you guys want to do a Hammerjacks movie later on. And that's how that got started. And it's certainly after all the time and all the stuff that they went through a lot trying to reopen the club and got hit by COVID and everything else at the same time. It's like, it was a long road for those guys. So you want them to see, things represented well there. But then for Louis, man, it's like, it feels like you're literally telling his life story.
Mm-hmm.
So Louis had not seen any cut of the film until he sat down to watch it with an audience. And so we only had one day where we interviewed Louis. That wasn't like we were back and forth and talking to him. Several people, Kevin Butler we interviewed several times, Bud Becker we interviewed several times, the Kicks guys we interviewed over and over. So we got to know those people a little bit. With Louis, it was very much we spent one day talking to him, and it had been years since that interview. So for him, it's like, man, I hope this is something specifically that he likes, because and Jackie Dorfler too. They made that club what it was in the early days, and it's like, man, I hope we get it right in their eyes, because this is their history. I mean, people that weren't there, it's an easy thing to say, like, yeah, that was fun to watch and so forth. But when you're dealing with somebody's life story,
Mm-hmm.
right, you hope you get it right. And it was they were both they weren't at the screening together, because Louis went to the first screening, Jackie wasn't able to come, and she came to the big Baltimore premiere, which was nerve-wracking on a whole nother level, because there were a lot of people that didn't want to drive to Virginia. They're like, this is a story about Baltimore, it should be in Baltimore. So when we did the Baltimore screening, that thing was packed, dude. It was sold out, 400 seats at FPX Events in Dundalk, which is an amazing venue, man, brand new, and it is killer. And Stone Horses played with John Allen from Child's Play.
I think that's the neighborhood he grew up in too. Was that on
Yeah.
Eastern Avenue? Yeah,
he's a Dundalk guy. Yeah,
I am too. Yeah, I grew up in there myself.
Yeah. So that was nerve-wracking in a different. But then Jackie was able to come, so you go through that again. But then the whole idea of, like, this is about Baltimore, in Baltimore. I spent a lot of time in Baltimore. I'm not from Baltimore, so it's like you hope that it's something that everybody connects with. And man, that was Andrea can talk about this too, but that was a really, really special night, because we were doing the same thing. We were sort of hanging out. We didn't sit in our seats at all, just sort of standing on the side and watching things. And the other thing is, after you go through a process like this, you've seen this movie 100 times, so you're like, I don't want to sit here and watch this whole thing again. But it was really, really awesome to stand on the side of that theater and hear people legitimately, like, yelling. I mean, they were so excited about stuff, and a new person would come on for an interview or a picture of some part of the club, and everybody would go crazy. So it was like, man, that was really special to see in that setting. So yeah, totally nervous going into it, because these people really, really know it. And a lot of people there, like the majority of the audience, probably knew Hammerjacks better than we did. So it's like, man, hopefully they dig it, which they did. So that was after you get through that, it's like, yeah, you feel comfortable. It's like, okay, it was done in a way that we can really be proud of. And then if anybody has a critique later on, it doesn't matter as much, because it's like, I just saw, we just stood together and watched 400 people lose their minds watching it. So that's good stuff,
Great.
But yeah, man, great. Totally nerve-wracking, for sure.
Great.
Plus, Andrea could talk about this too. It's not just the content thing. It's like, oh man, I hope there's not something when you're watching on the big screen that there's a half second of sound off, or there's some stupid, like, oh, the edit was too choppy here, or something else that maybe nobody else would even notice, but we would, so it's a nerve-wracking process for sure.
Was that the case?
No, it was clean.
Well, good.
Now we nailed it, man.
Yeah, I'm getting used to these newfangled things myself. I'm an actor, a musician, and I've been a podcaster for a while, but I finally started releasing this on YouTube, and I'm getting used to working with just basic software that came with my Mac, and I'm by no means a master of it, but I think you can look at my podcast and see the improvement. But, when you get into the softwares, and even years ago, old school, if you were taking razor knives and cutting and pasting the film together, to edit it and everything.
Yeah.
No easy task at all. It really takes some getting used to and a lot of practice and everything.
Yeah,
Let me
really
say this too, since she couldn't be here tonight with Anne Marie,
Uh-huh.
So I spent time at the club and so forth, but again, I was at a lot of different venues, right? I spent more time because I grew up on the other side of DC, so I spent more time at the Bayou and the 930 Club. Those were my primary groups, right? So I saw some shows at Hammerjacks and did some other stuff. I was an intern with WHFS. We talked about that when we first spoke. So I was down there for some shows there in a more of a working capacity, right? But you can't say enough about how Anne Marie got involved in this project, because she worked there for 7 years, Andrea, 6 years. She'll be mad at me for not knowing that, but yeah, she was a bartender there, worked there every day for years and years and years. So there are all sorts of angles to this film that we wouldn't have been able to know to go after even. And she made all of that stuff happen. And it was, I think, when we talk about having a premiere, that took a little bit of the edge off, in that she was there the whole time and she was very, very involved in the editing process, and she was responsible for setting up the majority of the interviews and bringing in a ton of the footage and so forth. So the fact that she was comfortable with it made us feel like we should be comfortable as well. Still nerve-wracking, but the thing wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have been nearly the same film without Anne Marie. And we should say that, since she wasn't able to make it tonight.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of those people, I remembered seeing, the bar staff and a lot of the people that were bouncers and people that you brought into the movie, and the people that you spoke to, and even people in pictures and things like that. I remember, God, I remember that guy. I remember that one, it was really a reunion, in a lot of ways too, just a reunion of, the whole staff. And again, they were part of the memories there too. They were definitely part of the memories there too, because they were all nice. They were all, again, they really contributed to the family environment, and friendly, good at what they did, and, really added to the whole experience, I think,
Yeah.
really added to the whole experience here. So what else? So what's next for you here? This is out, I'm sure you're out doing promotions and things. Have you been doing a lot of interviews or anything to help promote your film?
Yeah, we've done.
Yeah, we've been doing some stuff. And then, we just found out literally 10 minutes before this interview started that we got added to the Maryland International Film Festival, which is in Hagerstown.
Congrats.
March 23rd through 26th. So we're waiting to hear exactly what our screening time is, but that's going to be cool in Hagerstown, because that's, you got some of the Rat Child guys there, some Kicks guys nearby, and all that kind of thing. And so we're not done yet with screenings. We have that one coming up, and we've applied to a couple other festivals. We'll see how those go. But in the meantime, time to plug stuff, right? So you can get the Blu-ray and the DVD are available now. The easiest thing is just to go to our Facebook page, because nobody's going to write down. If you want it, our website address is varladogwood.com. But whatever, go to our Facebook page and look up Hammerjacks-The Rockumentary, and I'll have all the information about how to buy the DVD and Blu-ray. And we are right now, we're done selling bundles on our vinyl, but we have a double vinyl soundtrack that's coming out. As a matter of fact, got sitting right here, the test pressing of it right here.
Oh,
so that's coming from Main Man Records, which is the label from Keith Roth from Sirius XM, Hair Nation, and Ozzy's Boneyard, and CD comes with that too. So we have the soundtrack, which is in production right now, and that'll ship out in early May. So for this film, that'll be kind of the extent of it. A couple more festival screenings, and people can still buy it. Oh, and you can stream it online too, which is also available. All that information is available on our Facebook page. But once the soundtrack's out, I think we can take a breath and be like, okay, that project's sort of done at that point. But we're still in the middle of promotion and selling it right now.
Oh, wonderful. Well, wonderful. Well, I gotta say, again, you done good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was it was my time. It was my time. Coming up, my young adulthood years, my music years, and you really, I mean, for somebody, Andrea, you said you weren't there. You nailed capturing this. You really nailed capturing the environment. It was just you did such a great job on this here. And again, thank you for the memories. Thank you for I guess, giving me the opportunity to revisit this time, and it just done so well. And congratulations. And I hope this is very successful for you. Are you going to sit back and I guess in this business, there's no sitting back and, relaxing or anything, but do you have anything else interesting coming up that you're planning on?
What you got, Andrea?
Oh, we gotta talk. Yeah, I don't know. I think like Steve said, we need to take a breath. I mean, we've been filming stuff for the Hammerjacks movie from 2014 till about October of 2022. So, there's probably something else coming down the pike. We just, not on the tracks yet.
Yeah, for one thing, we want to see some shows, right? I mean, because we go to all these rock shows, and it's like you're there because you're filming interviews and you're missing half the bands, or I'm running around during Clutch, one of my favorite bands, like taking pictures and trying to get some video and stuff. I'm like, it'd be nice to relax and watch some music. And we're hoping that your band will get back together and get on that new outdoor stage and get that going, man. We want to see that. We want to see that happen.
I think if that happens, it's going to be a one-man show. We've had this back and forth for a long time. It's always there were four of us, and back in 2011 there was talk of, we would look on Facebook and we would see they would have Maxwell's night, and this reunion, this club reunion, that club reunion, all the bands that used to play there, and the guys would get together and do these reunion nights. And I was like, well, why don't we do this? So there was always, me, who was always 100% for, another one was 100% anti against it. And then the other two were kind of like the swing vote. Well, I'll do it if you do it, but I don't want to do it if you don't want to do it. So there was like the back and forth, and it just never happened. And I don't think it will. So
it sounds like every band reunion that anybody's ever tried to plan, man.
Exactly. And so, like I said, it was what it was. But if that ever happens, it's probably just going to be me playing my bass, and maybe people can sing along. Who knows? But heck,
I love it.
heck. But again, so tonight, folks, Andrea Kilcup, Steve Nerangis. Hammerjacks, the rockumentary, you had to be there. You heard where you can get it here, and I will post all of the links to get it in the show notes. And well worth checking out, folks. This was just so well done. They really captured this era well. And again, not only am I saying congratulations, I'm also saying thank you, because it was just such a really good this probably sounds like a load of crap, but it's true. It was a wonderful experience to watch.
We'll take compliments all day, man, even if it's a load of crap.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So, okay, folks. Well, again, Hammerjacks-The Rockumentary. The links are in the show notes, and we will see you next time on Fowl Players Radio. Take care.
Hello, my name is Gunhild Carling, and you are listening to Fowl Players Radio, and I am interviewed here, so tune in.
Hi, everybody. Dwight Weems from Gaz the Fun Band, and you're watching and listening to Fowl Players Radio.
Hi, this is Paul Castiglia, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio, the one-stop shop for all your pop culture needs.
Hi, this is Kathy Ladman, and you're listening to Fowl Players Radio, the place where you get all of your good news information. Not really, but it's just a great show.
Hello, this is John Piet,
Kevin Schmidt, and Jerry Bozick.
And we're August, a little band from Virginia. You can hear our story, other stories from the legendary Baltimore, D.C. music scene, and much, much more with Michael Spedden on Fowl Players Radio. You can find it at www.fowlplayersradio.com, on YouTube, and wherever you find podcasts online. Keep rocking.
And there you have it, folks. Our latest episode with Steve Nerangis and Andrea Kilcup, the co-executive producer and director of Hammerjacks-The Rockumentary. Folks, I really enjoyed this movie. I think you will too. Remember that there are links in the show notes on how you can purchase it, whether you want to stream it or you want to actually own a hard copy, an actual DVD. They also have Blu-ray available, from what I understand too. So remember, Fowl Players Radio can be seen on YouTube. Our channel on YouTube is at Fowl Players Radio. You can get all 282 episodes, I believe it is now. I think we're right around that mark, coming up on Big 300 at fowlplayersradio.com. You can see a couple of best of episodes, all of our shorts, season 9 and 10 on our YouTube channel. And we will be adding classic best of episodes in that format as well. So folks, again, I always appreciate you tuning in to watch and listen. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate you hitting that subscribe and like button, and we would appreciate it even more if some more of you did. So please do that, and we will see you next time on Fowl Players Radio. I'm Michael Spedden.